parts used in today's episode of The Quiet Rifle were provided for by Vladan Panovic, the Serbian superstar. So if you need anything that you see in this video, contact him with the email address down below in the description. I'll also put a link to his channel there. He's got lots of very helpful videos. You should subscribe, and he'll be able to sort you out with anything from all the way from a C3 Delrin Bumper Upgrade right the way up to a full power upgrade kit for whatever impact it is that you currently own. So hit him up, get what you need. It's been raining. We have grass again. I'm very happy. It's been very dry out here for a while, so good, very good. It's a drizzly old day, so we're going to spend most of the day inside fixing my impact. So those of you who watched my last video will know that I had a sudden loss of power with my impact. All of a sudden it just started basically the minimum setting turned, like the maximum setting turned into the minimum setting. Instead of shooting the 930 feet per second that it normally shoots, it was shooting about 700 on max power. And then when I wound it all the way down to minimum power, because I do quite a bit of shooting on minimum power, it ended up shooting at like 200 feet per second. So I pulled the gun apart and found that my C3 bumper O-ring was rooted. It had the middle of it was all clapped out, and it was in two pieces. So today we're going to do a little instructional technical video of how to replace your C3 bumper either with another standard one or with an upgraded Delrin one. It's a very simple process. You can do this at home. Don't freak out if your impact does what mine does. This is very simple. You don't need any super complex tools or anything, and hopefully if you are handy enough you won't have to send your gun away. You can just fix it and then get back to shooting. So that's what we're going to do today. As always, I didn't figure any of this stuff out. Other people did. I'm just presenting my little experience with it. So I will include more links to more channels down below, like 910 Airgun Repairs, Ernest Rowe and the FX channel and everything, so that you can take it straight from the horse's mouth if you want. It's always good to absorb a few different sources before you dive into something like this. So yeah, get yourself a well-rounded view on what's going to go on. One thing I think is good to start with is a very clean work area. If you can sort yourself out with a nice tablecloth and enough room to separate all of your tools from your parts, and if you are quite sort of a bit spacey and forgetful, maybe grab yourself some post-it notes as well, and that way you'll be able to write down whatever it is that you've taken out, put it on top of the post-it note, and you'll know what it is when you go to pick it up again. So this makes things very simple anytime I'm working on anything, whether it be my car, my guns, the lawnmower, whatever. Always start with a nice clean work area, get rid of everything you don't need, and separate your tools from your products. The next step is to make your gun safe. So if there's a magazine inserted, remove it, cock it open, remove the magazine, make sure there's nothing in the chamber, and then decock the gun. And after you're done with that, degas the gun, so remove the bottle and then spin your hammer wheel around to minimum, and then fire off a couple of shots until the regulator degasses itself and there's no pressure left in the gun at all. This is important because we're going into the guts, so we don't want anything with any hidden pressure sitting in there anywhere to pop out and scare us and blind us with projectile O-rings flying out or bits and pieces going all over the room. So make the gun safe, pull the magazine out, decock it, make sure there's nothing in the barrel, and then degas the gun. Take the barrel off next. 2.5mm Allen key, I believe. Mind. Start at the top left, work your way across as if you're reading a book. Next, we're going to take the top rail off. I believe this is a 3.5mm. Take the two smaller ones out the back. The ones at the back are 2.5. Try and keep all the bolts inside each piece. There's no need to take them out. That way you won't lose them when you put them back in. Next up, take the valve out. We're going to unscrew him. underneath that, it's going to reveal a little bolt here, which is 11 millimeters. Undo that. I'll pop you up here. Now, for the fun part. Okie dokie. So, for this next part, I'm just using a set of long-nosed vice grips. You can get these for about $10 from your local hardware store. Some of the guys like to drill a little hole right in the tip there, so there's a nice smooth round contact surface to grasp onto the valve stem with, because you don't want to mark up that valve stem if you can avoid it. But what I'm going to do is just use a piece of leather like this, and then use the leather as the clamping surface so that it doesn't mark anything up. So this bit's a little bit tricky to film, but basically I'm going to turn the gun upside down so that the O-ring slides down towards the accessible end of the spring, of the valve stem rather. You can see it there. Pop it into focus. There we go, little green one. So I'm going to hold the gun upside down while I do this, pull it down so that the O-ring is accessible, and then I'm going to clamp my vice grip around it and then flip it back over so that I can work on it. Go. So just be careful and gentle with it, because you don't want to mark the block of the gun, and you also don't want to bend that valve stem rod. Next, we're going to take a very small Allen key and pop it in the little hole here, and use that as a little bit of leverage to start unwinding it. Doesn't take too much. Pull it out, there'll probably be a bit of Loctite on there, or at least there should be anyway. Unwind the top of it. Pop him aside. Take off my blown out C3 bumper. So, here's a close-up of what we're dealing with here. This is the original O-ring. As you can see, this is the inside of it. It fits perfectly in there, and it's been bashed out by the hammer flying forwards. So it's a bit of a weak point. The new guns that FX is releasing now are supposed to have this upgraded. So they come with these new Delrin ones in there instead of these old green ones. If you buy a kit from most of the manufacturers who are doing FX Impact rebuild kits, it seems like they don't come with the Delrin one, they're coming with an older rubber one. So you might want to, if you are going to get a rebuild kit, just make sure you grab a couple of extra Delrin bumpers instead of just putting back these ones, because the Delrin bumper will last thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds, and these rubber ones are liable to break just whenever they feel like it. So definitely highly recommended. Very good performance upgrade for longevity's sake and reliability's sake, and never a bad thing to buy a few more than you need, because if you've got any mates who need one, or you know, you just want to carry some with you in your cleaning kit, it's a very simple operation to pull it apart, whack a new one in, and get back to shooting real nice and easy, nice and quick. And they don't cost much. You can get custom made ones on eBay for about $8. I'll put a link in the description for that as well, and of course you can talk to my main man Vladan, and he'll sort you out with one as well if you need. And then I'm going to take my nice new thick delightful Delrin C3 bumper, slide him back on. Takes a little bit of encouragement to get him on. go. And we're going to pop the end of the valve stem back on. Make sure you don't thread it. It's quite a small thread, so be very careful with it. Slide that Delrin spacer in a bit. And we're going to finish off by giving it a little bit of juice, not a huge amount, just to make sure it's secure. Alright, we're on nice and tight. Carefully, without bending anything, open up your vice grips, pull out your little leather bit, and then gently pop it back in. There we go. Now, it can get caught on the edge, so just make sure it is actually seated properly. Give it a wiggle left and right, up and down, just to make sure that it's actually going to pop all the way back in before you screw anything else back on. So that's all of the technical bits and bobs. Now all we have to do is put it back together. So basically just a reverse order. Carefully make sure the threads line up first. I like to do a bit of a anti-clockwise rotation first until I can feel the threads sort of seat themselves, and then go forwards. Gently. Very good. Give it a little tiny bit of a nip up with the old 11mm. There we go, just until it's seated. Very light pressure. You don't need to be wailing on that one, because it will break if you try and give too much mumbo to it. Put your little valve ball back on again, straight over the top. Measure it, return it back to whatever settings you had before. I didn't measure mine previously because I'm going to do some other upgrades to the gun, and I'm going to have to retune it afterwards anyway. So if you are going to do that, then just leave with all 4 lines showing so that it's wide open. Next, put the optics rail back on again. Allen key, give it a bit of anti-clockwise till you feel it click, and then clockwise to tighten her up. Leave it a little bit loose so that you can get your back 2 screws in there nice and easy. Same thing again, a little bit of anti-clockwise until it clicks, and then get the thread started. And once you've got all 3 of them started, then you can give them a bit of a nip up, like so. And then tighten up your big one. Happy days. Barrel back in again. Give it a bit of the old wiggly. And then when I put the barrel back on, I like to put it on off center and then rotate it around until I feel it click in. Just like that. That way I know I haven't put it in wrong, and I know I'm not marking up the contact surface with the grub screw. Same again, a little bit of anti-clockwise just until it clicks. Then drive it in, give it a gentle nip up, and Robert's your father's brother. Whack your bottle back on and go and test fire. Mint. There you have it. A very simple little fix-up job. Happy days. You only need 4 tools, and they're not really super expensive tools. You could go down to your local $2 shop and pick all of them up for next to nothing and fix your gun yourself. There's lots of people who are freaking out about the impact being super duper unreliable. It does have its problems, but there's such a really great support network. You can always call your dealer and ask them questions. You can jump on the internet and talk to Ernest Rowe. You can ask any great number of people who've made videos on YouTube about it. You're not being left high and dry. I know it's a bit upsetting paying a lot of money for a gun and then having little bits fail on it here and there. But when you're on the cutting edge of what's going on and the amount of flexibility and different things that you can actually do with this gun, there's always going to be a risk of a few little things going wrong here and there. So as time goes on and the guns get upgraded more and more, they are figuring these things out, and yeah, there shouldn't be any dramas with the new ones though. The new ones are supposed to come with a Delrin spacer, so it'll be all good. So yes, stay tuned for more upgrade videos. I'm going to be putting a power plenum on, the Vladan Punisher pack, power plenum, and yes, it's going to be fun. It's going to be good. Titanium. What? Shh. Secrets.